On September 21st of 1996 in Belgrade, Montana, 15-year-old Danni Hutchins grabbed her keys, climbed into her pickup, and headed for the river after an argument at home. It was a short drive she made plenty of times to a familiar pull-off on the Gallatin River, and by nightfall that truck would be sitting alone at the edge of the marsh, its driver gone. And for decades, officials told her family it probably was a tragic accident. That is, until new DNA testing pointed to a man who had quietly built a respected life under the same Montana sky. Danni was a high school sophomore who loved the outdoors and being with her friends. A few weeks earlier, she'd hurt her knee dancing, so by late September, she was getting around with a brace and spending more time at home. And late that Saturday morning, around 11 a.m., she asked her mom if she could drive out to the Cameron Bridge fishing access on the river, just a few miles south of town. When she left, wearing jeans, a gray sweatshirt, and a brace on her left leg, but she never came back. When Danni missed her check-in and dinner time came and went, her mother and a family friend drove out to the access site. The pickup was there, unlocked. Her keys and water bottle were on the ground nearby, but there was no sign of Danni. They searched on their own for hours before calling the sheriff's office around 5 p.m. The search and rescue teams, deputies, and volunteers combed the thick, swampy terrain until dark when the official search was called for safety. And two local brothers, though, who knew the marsh well, kept on going with their flashlights. About 45 minutes later, one of them spotted a shape in a shallow pool. It was Danni, face down in a few inches of muddy water. The autopsy painted a far darker picture than what her family heard. The medical examiner found mud and water deep in her airways and even in her stomach, signs she was alive and struggling when her face was forced into the muck. There were injuries consistent with SA and evidence she'd likely been dragged. Her elastic watch, for example, was stretched up her hand and her bra pushed up. Yet the official cause of death was listed as drowning and the manner as undetermined. And publicly, the sheriff suggested she might have fallen and maybe tripped on her bad knee and simply drowned where she landed. And for years, her family heard the same story while being denied crucial details. The signs of assault and the mud in her stomach were never shared with them at all. In 2019, though, long after the case had gone cold, a captain at the sheriff's office reopened the file. Around this time, Danni's younger sister, Stephanie, 12 when Danni had died, began pushing for answers and for her sister's death to be treated as a murder. When Dan Springer was elected sheriff in 2021, he made Danni's case a priority.
When you become the boss, you get to decide to do things the way you want to do things. I felt like, well, this is our time. Let's go get some answers.
He brought in retired LAPD Captain Tom Elfmont and Newport Beach Police Sergeant Court DePueg, a specialist in using DNA to crack old homicides. The 4 tiny arm hairs collected from Danni's body in '96, rootless but preserved, were then analyzed. And they led to a man living about 100 miles away now in Dillon. His name was Paul Hutchinson, a 55-year-old fisheries biologist with the Bureau of Land Management. Back in '96, he'd been a 27-year-old Montana State University student in fisheries and wildlife biology, a path that kept him on rivers and access sites all over the valley, including places like Cameron Bridge. And he had served in the Marine Corps, had no criminal record, was married with 2 children, and friends in the hunting and fishing community saw him as a knowledgeable, trustworthy outdoorsman. On the evening of July 23rd of 2024, Elfmont and DePueg approached Hutchinson outside his BLM office and asked to talk.
Hey, Paul. How you doing? Good. Good. My name's Tom Elfmont. I'm with the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. We wanted to talk to you. We've been talking to some fisheries people about some things that have been going on here at the rivers in southwest Montana.
Okay.
And during nearly 2 hours of questioning, investigators say he was visibly shaken, sweating heavily, scratching at his face, even biting his own hand. When they showed him a photo of Danni, well, he slumped in his chair and grew even more uncomfortable. At 4:17 the next morning, Hutchinson called the local sheriff's office saying he needed help, and then just hung up. Deputies found him shortly after on the side of the road, dead from a single gunshot wound. Days later, tests on his DNA, taken after his death, matched the genetic material from Danni's body, and Sheriff Springer described it as complete confirmation that Hutchinson was responsible for her assault and murder.